All right, high rollers, it's been a while since the last video. My apologies, but I have been busy at a new place and I've just been enjoying the view, if you will. Enjoying life. What can I say? Again, apologies. I've missed doing them, but we are back today and we are joined by a guy who's been on here before. In fact, he's been on here more than anyone else. Fair to say he's not everyone's cup of tea, but I like him. A true character, not afraid to speak his mind, and yes, he loves the darts. The Rocky of darts, OCHE Balboa. Welcome back, Chris. Thanks for being our high roller today, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. It's good to be back.
How have you been? A lot's happened since we last spoke.
Yeah, I've been fine. Just been ploughing along, really, not doing much. Just on Twitter. Working, drinking, all that sort of thing. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Boys will be boys. You know what? It's nice to see that you're still on Twitter, and it's nice to see also that your government has done away with all COVID restrictions effective next week. No masks, no nothing. I try to avoid politics on social media, as you know. I get sucked in sometimes, but we're all tired of COVID. I see this as a good thing for darts in 2022. No restrictions. What's your take?
It's been a long time coming, and quite frankly, we shouldn't have had any restrictions with the Omicron variant anyway. My views on COVID are different from everybody else's, but we should have got on with it a long time ago. I think everything's fine and we should treat it as flu.
All right, well, Happy New Year. Here we go to 2022. 2021 was interesting. Let's start with the World Championships. Peter Wright, now a two-time champ, he beat Michael Smith in the final 7-5. A close one. Bully Boy had a chance to go up 6-4, missed a few darts at double. It's a game of fine margins after all, but well done snakebite. He was so good down the stretch in that one, wasn't he?
It was. It was a strange final. It wasn't as high impact as I thought it would be and what people have said since. I thought that Smith played a largely better during the first several sets, but right in the last two sets was almost unplayable. And I've seen comments on social media saying Michael Smith bottled it again. He should have done that, but I don't think he bottled it. It was just that Wright was just on a peak, which was excellent, and he couldn't get anywhere near it. So Wright was the worthy winner at the end because he produced world-class darts when he needed to. It was quite a strange final because I thought that Michael Smith was going to win it up until that point.
Yeah, I really believe so too, and fair play to Michael Smith throughout that tournament. One of the knocks on him is that when the pressure is high, he sometimes folds, but he came through a few pressure moments, and man, in that final, like you say, I thought he was going to win it. I thought this was the coronation of the future, but now reigning, defending world champion. It just didn't happen.
Yeah. No, it didn't, and when Smith wins one, and we keep saying this, and it's been a long time coming, then there'll be a new era in darts, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, he's one of those guys when you watch him play and he's in that flow, kind of like Gary Anderson, that man, oh man. Adrian Lewis as well in his heyday. They've just got so much natural talent and skill. It's effortless, and they're hitting the triple 20 every time, it seems.
Yeah, it's just that. Michael Smith's probably the most talented player that there is within darts. His talent tells you that you should win things.
I'll tell you what, you got to give it to Peter Wright. Like you say, unplayable those final two sets. It's like he flipped a switch and said to himself, I ain't going to lose this. That's what the great ones do, right? They step it up when it's time to step it up.
He does. And he played, he was, you could argue he was the best player of the whole tournament because he knew when to switch it on. He come back from 2-0 down against Damon outplaying Anderson and stuff like that. He was probably the worthy winner. He was actually a prediction I got right for once. I said he was going to win it from the start. And he looked like the man to beat whole for the tournament, really. So he's a very, very good player. I mean, he's got better with age. I mean, he's 51 now and he's probably playing better than he's ever played.
And you have to appreciate a guy like that because you're right. He's a veteran of the game. He's put in his time, paid his dues. He tinkers a lot. But as he said in one of the post-match interviews, he's tinkered his way to number 2 in the world and now a 2-time world champion.
Yeah. He tinkers probably too much, but he's got the self-belief that he just picks up a darts and just throws them, and it's a good standard. But he's stuck with one. I can understand what he's doing, but if he's stuck with one and just said, this is what I'm going to do for a year, he may pick up 4 or 5 titles during the year instead of 2 or 3. That's the level he could play at. So, I'm not sure about if he will be the main man to beat in 2022. I'm not really sure about that, but he's picked up the two biggest ones in 2021. So he's had a great year. So you can't argue with that.
Speaking of greatness, how about Gerwin Price? Unable to defend. Still, I find it amazing what he's done in such a short time. And I love the fact that he brings it. I mean, he's animated. Not everyone likes it, but fair play to him, because when he's in a match, it's like a battle to him. It's war.
I'm not a fan of his, as everybody knows. I can understand what he's doing, but there's something about him which I don't like, and the way he goes about it, I just don't like. It's more of an irritant rather than, he's like a Bristow type of player, gets in a finger and finger. I just think he's a very good player, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see him as a particularly great person in myself, and I think he's a bit of an irritant.
Well, he irritates a lot of people on the hockey, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I thought it was pretty great that Alan Sutar made a deep run. He popped in some big finishes to win matches as well. The worlds are always nervy. There's tension. Some can handle it and others cannot. And it's great to see when some players you don't expect to emerge make a deep run like that.
Yes, I mean, Alan Sutar has been a really good player around the circuit for a number of years. When he was in the BDO system, he was always talked about as somebody that could go far in events. And even though he didn't do many events in the BDO, he was still challenger in what events he did. And he got to Lakeside a few times. But so it's not really much of a surprise that he did okay in the first year. Okay, getting to the last 16 of the Worlds is a great achievement. And he has improved, and he's just a battler. He's just somebody that just never gives up and just says, I'm in for a scrap. I'm going to make this a 4-3 win or 5-4 win or something like that. And he got outdone in the end because Ridge was playing a lot better. Ridge was in high form, and that's what did him in the end. But last 16, well into the top 50 now. So he's had a great cracking first year.
You mentioned Callan Ridge. We were talking about Michael Smith. Any similarities there? I mean, is this a future world champion as well?
It's a bit early for me to say, really. I think Ridge looks really good against Peter Wright. He looked really, really good, and he looked good in previous matches. I mean, he blew Aspinall away, for example. It's a bit early to say. I'd just like to see what he does this year, and if he gets into contention, quarterfinals, semi-finals, whatever, or more in any of the TV events, then you could see him as somebody that's an emergence in the future. But I'm going to say the jury's out. He's got a lot of talent, but the jury's out.
One of the main storylines of this year's World Championship was the fact that MVG, Vincent Vandervoort, and Dave Chisnell, all disqualified for testing positive for COVID. They had to withdraw. I mean, what a disappointment. What a shame that was. I mean, you play all year for the World Championships. I mean, MVG had no symptoms. It had to be so frustrating for those guys. It is.
It's one of the requirements from the government, which was insane. Just test. And eventually, you're going to pick up somebody that's asymptomatic, who's not even ill, and they have to withdraw from the tournament they worked hard all year for. It's just mad. I felt sorry for the guys because, Van Gerwen would have been there or thereabouts, not so much the other two. But it's just infuriating, really, that you have to withdraw from the tournament because you've got a positive test, and you're there, and you're probably right as rain. You have to stay in a hotel room for 7 days. It's just madness, really. Well,
you say not so much the other two, but I mean, come on, Keith Deller won the World Championship. On any given Sunday, you never know. And what if it was a person that was there for the first time? They work all their lives, they practice so hard, hours and hours, all the dedication and devotion, and then it's just stripped away. I mean, that's what really bothered me.
Yeah, I mean, it happened to Martin Clearmaker last year as well, when he got to the venue and was tested positive. So, he made amends for that by getting to the last 16 this year. So it's just bad. It's just really bad. Hopefully now in 2022, when all these restrictions are gone and so forth, that test won't be needed. So players will have to show symptoms, and then you think, might have to test them or something like that. Hopefully now we won't have these things where people have to drop out and then writers' round, because don't forget, Gerwin Price had to drop out the Premier League, and he was writers' round. It's just one of them.
On that note, what do you make of Michael Van Gerwen's drop in the rankings? You know, we talk about Duzza, what happened to him, he slid down, but Michael Van Gerwen has as well, not the same guy, it seems, up there playing.
No, he's not. He's very reasonable, and he's not got the aura that he used to have. I mean, for about 2 years, from 2014 to about 2016, 2017 even, he was superb, and he was like Taylor-esque dominance. And all of a sudden, players weren't scared of him anymore, and he's not really somebody that is an automatic pick to win a world title. He'll still be in contention, but when you look at it and you think he's a three-time world champion, and you think he's had an era and he's only three-time world champion, he's probably underachieved on that regard. He might still win more, but in his pomp era, he's underachieved a little bit.
Now, one of the things that stuck out for me over the course of the 2 weeks was the scoring, counting. Better yet, so many miscounts. You know, one of the main fundamentals of the game, in the heat of the moment, with all the pressure, we all make mistakes, but they can certainly be costly. And when you look at a guy like Jose de Souza, I mean, wow, it's almost unacceptable at this level, is it not?
Yeah, it's unacceptable. And if you notice, de Souza had a great 2020 when there was no crowds. 2021, okay, got to the Premier League final, but his airheadedness, so to speak, has probably cost him on a few things, and he's got beat because he hasn't really got the nous anymore. But that's why I thought de Souza, in my opinion, was a bit of a 7-day wonder. He's good, he's decent, but he was never going to stay in the top echelons for longer than 12 months, and he's beginning to prove that now. And when he's got the money to defend this year, he'll probably drop out the top 16. That's what I predict.
So you think Jose is a flash in the pan?
Pretty much, yeah. For 12 months, he is, yeah, pretty much.
Let's talk about Johnny Clayton, because there's another guy who's been prone to miscounts, and yet it doesn't seem to faze him at all. I mean, this guy just pushes on. Yep. It's great to see him rise to the fore in darts, because he really is a nice guy and quite a dart player.
He is. Well, you know, he's just a guy that just gets on the job and doesn't want the theatricals or anything like that. He'll celebrate with hitting the winning double or winning the leg and so forth, but he's not theatrical. He just gets on and just tries to get on with the job and play darts, which is a good thing. You know, we got this thing where he works for a living and everything like that, and fair play to him. He's doing a good thing. He's playing darts. He's earning a lot of money from darts, and really, it's not his be-all and end-all. And if you can do that and earn a hell of a lot of sums for something that's not the be-all and end-all, then it's fantastic. He's living a fantastic life, really, and fair play to him.
Yeah, that's what you call being ahead of the game. Now, one of the things that stuck out to me was that 9-darter to win from William Borland. I thought it was a pretty good world championship overall. There were some upsets. I mean, nail-biters, the crowd was there, all positives. How do you recap the world championship? What did you think?
I just didn't think it was that good. There were games where people overrated. I mean, there was good games. I mean, Boland getting a 9-darter to win the game was fantastic. You know, that's the top achievement apart from winning the world title, really. But you had that Wright versus Anderson semi-final where people said, "Oh, that's a fantastic semi-final. That's a great semi-final, and that's the best semi-final I've ever watched." And this is from like darts journalists. And at the end of the day, it really wasn't, because Peter Wright was never going to lose that game. And when you have that feeling of watching a game, despite what standard it is, and you've got that feeling where one player you know is going to win it, and it's going to take some brilliance for him to get beat. But it's never a great game as people think. I mean, for example, when they talk about Taylor versus Lewis in 2013 Grand Slam semi-final, that was the majestic game that was. Taylor never looked like losing, and he won it 16-10. A lot of people go overboard, over averages, over standard, rather than looking at every aspect of the game.
I mean, ebbs and flows in any darts match are important. I completely understand what you're saying, because I try to always root for the underdogs, and I can sense it when I feel like an underdog's close, but in the back of my head, I say there's no chance this person's winning this match.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to look at a good semi-final from the PDC a few years ago, was Cross beating Van Gerwen. Van Gerwen missed 3 darts to win the match. that tells you everything there already. You know what I mean? It's just that some people people within the darting community try and overrate something. They just like impact. I've seen this game. This is the greatest game ever. When you think, come on, mate, hold your horses. It's not, is it?
That cross MVG match, I was on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, there you go. That was a lot different from the Brighton-Anderson game. Anderson played well, don't get me wrong, but he was never going to beat Peter Wright.
Q School has come and gone again,
Yep.
kind of like a lottery, really. So many good players in there, all vying for that highly coveted PDC Tour card. If you're going to find your A game, that is the week to do it. Darren Webster, Scott Waits, both getting tour cards. That was great to see. The wee man's back on tour. Now, I was watching the North Americans, and unfortunately, they had a rough go. I mean, nobody qualified. It was tough to watch at times. I didn't really follow it other than that. Tell me about your follow of Q School. You were right there every day.
Yeah, it's a strange format because there was like 7 days worth of action and people have to try and pre-qualify and so forth. And it was just, it's a lottery. Let's put it this way, it's a lottery because there's a lot of players who averaged 96 throughout the tournament, like people like Sean McDonald, for example, and didn't get a card, while people who averaged like 87 for the day got a card. So it's one of those things. I was looking at what the WDF players were doing. I mean, you got Ross Montgomery, he went on and won a card. You got Connor Scott, who went on and won a card. Brian Roman, he went on and won a card. Tricol, the Frenchman, was very unlucky not to win a card, and so forth like that. So, you know, I mean, Scott Marsh was unlucky. You look at the pressure that Fallon Sherrock had. Everybody was just focused on her games, and she won 2 games in the last 4 days. And I felt sorry for it because from Sky and from the PDC, they put unnecessary pressure on her, and I thought that was wrong.
Well, let's talk about that. I was going to ask you about Fallon Sherrock because there's loads of discussion all over social media about her these days. Will she be in the Premier League? Should she be in there? She didn't get a tour card. And as you mentioned, Sky Sports running loads of montages on her. I believe she is dynamite for the game, and I totally understand the push. And when she's up on that big stage, she is absolutely fantastic, a pressure player. The PDC is trying to tap into the women's market and grow it like it did the men's game, and I believe the potential is there. I think it's great. Some people, though, think it's just a tad too much, that other players are being overlooked.
Yeah, it is a bit tad too much. I mean, there were certain things, you know, when they were running montages, when she played in the Worlds against Steve Beaton, and you had somebody who commentates on Sky putting out on Twitter but deleting the message saying, people are misogynistic if they support Steve Beaton. Now, Steve Beaton has a good support throughout the darting community, so people are going to support him against Fallon Sherrock or against Michael Van Gogh. It makes no difference to them. But the thing is, Sky put a lot of focus on that, and it became something where you wanted her to lose to stop the montages, and that's not fair. She's a very good player. She's an excellent player. But there was too much pressure on her unnecessarily. She's only 28. And people got to realise that just let her play darts. Yeah, she's going to come with all the things and like that because, you know, she's the most marketable person in darts at the moment. But just let her play darts, you know. Extra pressure because all social media are going to go be scrutinised saying, oh, she hasn't got a tour card again and she shouldn't be in the Premier League and she shouldn't be that. And they're right. But really, does she really need to go to Q School to get a tour card, really? Because they're going to invite you onto the World Series events. They should qualify for the Grand Slam and the World Championships. Does she really need a tour card? I don't think so.
Plain and simple, I think some people are just outright jealous. Cameron Menzies put out a nasty little tweet how he hates social media and what people devolve into when they're putting out messages and posts. Sometimes it's quite comical, but sometimes it's quite nasty as well. And fair play to her because she is a great player, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. I mean, sometimes people just say, "Oh, they're jealous," but they're not. They're not. They just want to see what is the hype. Is the hype justified, and we can get behind it. And at the moment, it's not quite there. So that's why people are beginning to question it. there's one guy who does a blog and he writes some nasty comments about her all the time like that, and that's just beyond the power. It's just ridiculous. But there are people there that genuinely wanted to do well. But there are people there that think, I really wanted to do well, but Sky Force over egging it are making me think I'm not that bothered anymore. And that's a shame, really. As for the women's game, I'm still a bit sceptical about if it makes a massive impact on the women's game because the entries aren't there for the events. And I hope there are like younger girls playing darts because they're inspired by what Fallon does. And that'd be great for the sport. But until that comes into tournaments, I'm still sceptical.
Well, you said it right there. She's just 28, and she's already got her place in darts history, and that's something as a young player everyone dreams of, finding a place in darts history. She's got it.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody remembers who Fallon Sherrock is, let's put it that way, more than a lot of players who play on the tour for years and years and years and so forth. Everybody remembers who Fallon Sherrock is. She's got a name in darts vocal. No one can take it away from her. So, fair play. And Lisa Ashton as well. I mean, people forget about Lisa Ashton, what her achievements have done. She went and got a tour card, and she's 4-time world champion. I mean, her achievements are excellent as well. You look at the other ones, you look at Dita Edmonds, who's been at the top of the women's game for 35 years, and she still is. She's WDF world number 1. Anastasia, coming from Russia, being the first world champion. Trina Gulliver, 10-time world champion. They've all made their mark in the women's game and for the larger scope of darts. But, yeah.
Now, back on the topic of Q School, I usually bring up UK Q School. I watch it for the North Americans. I failed to mention that over in Europe, Jules Van Dongen, this guy got a tour card, did he not? The American?
He did. Yeah, he's an American, born in Holland, I think it was. So, yeah, he's played well on the WDF circuit all year, came from nowhere, and, originally qualified for Lakeside, and got a tour card. And I think he could do really well because he's got something about him. I've seen a few streamed matches of him, and, he's got a good action, quite calm under pressure. So he's got good attributes. The other North Americans, I mean, Leonard Gates, I think Leonard Gates should have tried EU Q School because he would have got through that because he's got some ability, and I was surprised he didn't get anything. He's somebody that could do well at Lakeside in April. I mean, you've got John Part failed.
Danny Lobby, Jacob Taylor.
Danny Lobby, and you've got Jacob Taylor, who were close. So it will happen because there seems more and more North American players going over and having a try. And there's more people on the CDC circuit and the WDF circuit who are hitting good averages. They're beginning to be like contenders. So in about 10, 15 years' time, you'll see something good with American and Canadian darts, something good. Okay, no one's going to be a John Part, but you're going to see something good. You're going to see some consistent players in the PDC and keep guys in the WDF. You're going to see that more, so which will be good for North American darts because there's a lot of investment going on in North American darts, and it's really good.
Yeah, it is great to see, and you know me on social media. I'm overly optimistic for the North Americans. I think Danny Baggish and Jeff Smith are going to win everything. You know that, but I got to cheer them on. And sometimes I do forget, man, that we've had John Part, a 3-time world champion. You say it'll never happen again, but I say never say never.
There may be a North American world champion on either side, but I don't think they'll have the claim of John Part. That's what I will say. John Part is still the king of North American darts.
Speaking of John Part, I've got a question from Twitter. It comes from @the_Hammer_Wields, who wants to know your views on the best and worst things about the hosts, the presenters, and the in-match commentary on darts. Who do you like, who do you dislike, and why?
Well, Sky Sports coverage is it's okay in parts, but then in other ones, the intros of it sided towards about 2 or 3 players. I think the presenters are fine. I think Laura Woods and Emma Panton do a pretty good job. I think Mardle's pretty good, but I can understand why people think he's annoying. Webster's really good. Part's good. Laura Turner's okay as well. The others, I just have no time for. I mean, Stuart Pike, I mean, he just got commentates and he shouts a random thing and you just think, why you do that for? I mean, some of the commentary, they try and be like Sid Waddell, and they're failing miserably. And it's just like, you can't really be Sid Waddell, really. You've got to have your own style. They're trying to be Sid Waddell, and it sort of lets them down. And sometimes I can't listen to the commentary. Apart from, players like Webster and Part.
Well, you know what they say, my man. There's only one Sid Waddell.
Yes. There's only one Sid Waddell. I mean, Sid Waddell, he's one of the big names starts was his commentary. In the end, he became like a Taylor apologist, which sort of tarnished his legacy, in my opinion. But you can't try and be him. You try and be someone else. You can't be him or someone else. You try and be yourself, and they're not doing that. And I just think it's a bit bonkers sometimes.
Let's talk about the Premier League right now. A new look Premier League, a new format, 8 players, bracket style, a winner each week. You originally thought they might expand it to 16 players, but no, We're down from 10 to 8. What do you think?
Well, I think it's good for the people that go there, because if you go there, get a ticket, you can basically see a tournament on a night. So, a knockout tournament on a night. So you see the same, you see the winner 3 times, the runner-up 3 times, and so forth. As for the Sky Sports viewer, or the casual viewer, it may be okay, but for the darts purist, for the darts thingy, I'm not 100% taken by it. I can understand why they've gone for it, because they want to try and freshen it up, but it's just going to be like, I mean, they're all going to be playing each other twice anyway, so you won't see, like, Van Gogh versus Peter Wright every single week, so forth, in the first round. So the novelty will be there this year, or for the first few weeks, but I'm not sure about it. I'm just going to let the jury out on that one.
Let's go back to Twitter now. Our pal Wim wants to know about the World Seniors and the WDF Worlds. Let's start with the WDF. We have a return to the Lakeside, but things have been pushed back to April. As a result of Q School, the organization's lost a few of its stars, a few of its top seeds. What do you make of this? A bit of a catch-22 with the WDF right now.
Yeah, I mean, they really shouldn't have put it back to April, but with the uncertainty with Omicron and Corona or whatever, they probably felt they had no choice but to, but it is what it is. As for the players, there's 7 players who've got tour cards who are in the WDF. They've got 3 options, really. One is to invite people who are next down on the rankings, so people like John Scott and so forth. 2, they can invite players who couldn't come over because of COVID, players from New Zealand and Australia, for example. They can invite them again. Or 3, just have like an open qualifier with like even the tour dropouts, because people like Matt Edgar have expressed interest in trying to qualify for the WDF World Championships. So that would be a good thing, really, because you can get some new names in there, like who have just dropped out off the tour, like Edgar or Klassen or players like that. It could add a good impetus to the World Championships, and I think it'll be a success in its own right. I don't know about how many people are going to be there. The ticket sales are going slow, so that's a bit of a problem. But I think it will be a success, and I hope the WDF sort out how they're going to fill the 7 pretty soon, because the longer that they keep dragging it, the people won't get interested, and people go, oh, come on, and so forth. You just got to try and keep the interest in every week. So let's see what happens.
Well, to lose 7 players like that hurts the WDF, but at the same time, it shows the organization has quality.
Yeah, it does, and it always has, and it always will. There's a lot of players within that organisation who didn't get a tour card this time, but will get a tour card in the future. So, I mean, you look at the talent now. I mean, you've got Luke Littler, who's 14, and he's world number 2 now. And a 14-year-old in a senior organisation being world number 2 is an impressive achievement. And that should be congratulated, and that should be pushed out there, saying, look at him, what he's done. Okay, you don't want to put too much pressure on him, but you want to accept the achievements. So there's always going to be players that are going to come through, and there are always going to be players that are going to drop down and relaunch their careers in the WDF, if you so like it. And players will do that because the WDF is still good in getting, making players ready for Q Store and, getting a bit of money in your pocket and getting a lot of experience on stage and so forth. So it has massive advantages.
It'll be nice to be back at the lakeside, though, right? The home of proper darts.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Lakeside's the venue for darts. I mean, it's a bit dated, I've said before, but it's great it's there, and I'm looking forward to it.
Now, the World Seniors, I'm excited about this. You are on record as saying there will be a few shock results and that it'll be a Taylor-Adams final. I mean, I think these competitive juices are going to be flowing in this event. I think there's going to be animation, there's going to be drama. I'm going to love it.
Yeah, it's going to be really good. There's going to be some sloppiness there because a couple of the guys haven't played competitive darts for a couple of years. So they're going to try and get themselves match ready behind the practice board, which is difficult. But it's going to be good. I mean, the worry is that if all the novelty fall off, but I don't think it will because it'll be a tour in its own right. And people like to go and see John Lowe and Bob Anderson and people like that. I mean, I'm going to be going to it, so that'd be good fun. Yeah, I think that Taylor and Adams are the two best players in it, apart from, you could argue, Robert Thornton and Lisa Ashton and John Walton's been playing well. I would like to see Adams win it, or someone like John Park, for example, win it. I'm intrigued. It's going to be an intriguing battle.
I'd love to see John Part win it, shocking the world again. 4-time, baby. 4-time. Now, interesting matchups in the draw. You mentioned Bob Anderson. He takes on Robert Thornton. You've got Jenkins v. Schulten. Butler faces Warner. Les Wallace is in there. I mean, this is a tournament, a blast from the past.
Yes, it's just great. I mean, you've got every world champion there who hasn't got a tour card, who isn't there, or hasn't got any other issues in there. So, yeah, it's just going to be loaded with nostalgia, with people going to look forward to seeing someone like Keith Della playing darts again.
John Lowe.
And John Lowe, yeah. I mean, John Lowe's in his late 70s now. I mean, Taylor's going to be the first time he's going to be playing competitively for
Peter Manley, Wayne Warren.
Yeah, Peter Manley, Wayne Warren. I mean, even Trina Gulliver and Dieter Edmund and Lisa Ashton are in there. It's going to be good. I mean, as I say, I'm going to be there for a couple of days, so I'm quite looking forward to that. I still think Taylor or Adams will win it. I'm not really swayed by anybody else, really. I'd like a couple of others to win it, but I still think Taylor and Adams final will probably be a good thing to have because you've got the kingmaker of the PDC versus the kingmaker of the BDO in the World Seniors final, which is probably the world final everybody will want to have seen anyway in an ideal world. So part of me hopes it's going to be that as well. So, let's see what happens.
You make a great case. I'd love to see that as well. I saw a great tweet today from Matt Seniors Darts regarding Eric Bristow. It says he would have been all over this event, and then there was a picture of his iconic grip. I mean, legend.
Yes, he would have been in the field. He would have been playing. Yeah. It's a shame that, you know Andy Fordham either. I mean, he died last year. I mean, he'll be sorely missed. Eric Bristow. I mean, Ted Hankey had to pull out. A couple of others. I mean, Richie Burnett had to pull out as well. It's a shame we won't see every world champion there, but it is what it is, and it's going to be good. And there's a lot of star power there, so it's going to be a good tournament.
We'll save the Ted Hankey discussion for another day. Who's in charge?
Yeah.
Me or the devil? Let's leave this on a positive note, real quick. Perhaps wishful thinking, but you'd like to see all darts organizations in 2022 sit down together and plan a calendar.
Yes. Okay, it's not going to happen now because we're in 2022. I'd like to see a bit of a collaboration between the PDC, the WDF, and new ADC. The new Mad Darts.
Right.
I'd like to see them plan the events where the players have got a choice, but logistics is there as well. The PDC are going to have their own calendar. So, for example, Q School would have been on the same time as WDF World Final. Come on, that's not good. That's what I mean. Things like that. It's just like you plan it for the dart fan, for the darter. There's a little bit of pettiness in each organisation, a bit where they're putting on certain dates and everything like that. I mean, even the county dates. People put in big events 10 miles away on county dates, for example. There needs to be like a collaboration of all darting organisations to say, this is our plan. We're going to silently agree with each other. Not, PDC are going to take over all the amateur organisations and so forth, but just like something where the darts fan knows what's going on and there's a choice, and, we get to see the WDF without thinking that OCHE school starting on Saturday. That's going to overshadow the final, for example, and all the amateur darts associations tournament's going to start at the same time as the World Masters, which was proposed. Again, what's the point? I mean, work out a plan, both of you. Have one week and have one next week.
Right.
Just things like that. Just little simple things like that, which will help.
Well, listen, man, I really appreciate your time. We've been speaking with the Rocky of Darts, OCHE Balboa, at It's OCHE again on Twitter. Give him a follow and do so at your own risk. Cheers, Chris, man. Thanks for your time today. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for having me.